Hello to everybody. Good evening. Happy Friday, whatever you are doing. Hope you are managing to keep everything nailed down in the high winds that we've got. Just to let you know, if anything happens with the internet, because it's a little bit sporadic in this really, really high gale force winds we're having on the southwest coast, please do stay with us. We will endeavour to get back online as soon as we can. So just make yourself comfortable. It's Friday night. It's our Q&A, really informal opportunity for you to have a kind of behind the scenes chat and a Q&A and ask your questions of lots of different spiritual people every Friday. And this Friday, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Adam Berry. Hi, Adam. How are you doing?
Hi, Ashley. I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're well. It's such a joy to have you here. I'm really looking forward to this evening. And we've been having a good chat before we get started. And do you know what? There's just so many things we can talk about. It's going to be an action-packed hour. So hello to everybody that's here from wherever you are hailing from in the UK. It's always nice for me to see where people are coming from. Hello to Lorna. Hi, lovely Lawrence. Lawrence from Poole is here. Hello to Paula, Andrew, Cleve, Leslie, Trudy, Debbie. Oh my goodness. Hello to everybody that is watching this evening and tuning in. So before further ado, if you go and grab yourself a drink, settle in, get cozy, get comfy, make sure you have your questions for Adam ready, and we will be back with you in about 30 seconds. And we are back. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hello, if you've just joined. Hello to everybody who's watching on catch up. It's really good to see you here. If you're watching on a replay, it's great to have you with us. So without further ado, my name's Ashley, and I'm going to be your host this evening. And it's my great pleasure, as I've said, to interview Adam Berry. And what we do on a Friday night, this is a place to create a virtual community of spiritually minded people to have a really open-hearted conversation about what our faith is, what spirituality means to us, and to hear of some life stories of some people that are walking the walk, talking the talk, and are delivering their own service to the spirit world at the moment. And we learn an awful lot from every single person that comes and talks to us on a Friday. So, Adam, there is so much to get through. And I suppose for people that don't know you, could you introduce yourself and what you're kind of up to at the moment, and what spiritual service looks like for you right now?
Okay, so I'm Adam Berry. At the moment, what I'm doing, I am the president of Rawtenstall Spiritualist Centre. So I was appointed president last year. So I've been, I've been involved with Rawtenstall for quite many years now, but appointed as president last year. So obviously bringing new ideas into Rawtenstall, new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things. Alongside that as well, I've been doing my Spiritualist National Union qualifications. So I've spent a few years doing my certificate in speaking and demonstration and teaching, and just more so recently been accepted as a trainee tutor at the Arthur Findlay College, which should have been starting at the end of this year, but I don't know whether that will at the moment, but it's still there to do. And yeah, apart from that, I work in construction for my day job. So I've been in construction for about 18, 19 years now. And yeah, I'm still studying and still learning. I teach as well. And I think that's where I'm up to at this moment in time.
Wow, amazing. And I must say that it's a really interesting question. And thank you to Lisa, if you're watching, who after I posted the link to this live broadcast said, what does CSNU actually mean? And so I thought, actually, I haven't explained that. And, you know, I think every industry everywhere is kind of subject to lots of acronyms. But could you just explain a little bit more about what that certificate actually involves and what it means, and because the UK has a really interesting level of certification for mediums, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, within the Spiritualist National Union, there is, if you want to sort of get more involved and learn more within your mediumship, within healing, within speaking, there's different accreditations that you can take. So I started off probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and it was the Platform Accreditation Scheme. So that was just learning about the history of spiritualism and learning about the mechanics of mediumship. It was a very basic course, but also we had to do so many services with speaking and demonstrating over a course of 2 years. So then you have to go for an assessment with that to demonstrate your mediumship in front of a panel, and you have to demonstrate your speaking too. So that is the pass, and then it goes on to the CSNU, which is a certificate of recognition with the Spiritualist National Union. So it just goes a bit deeper with the knowledge about presentation, about ethics, and again, it's the same disciplines of speaking and demonstrating. And again, you go before a board. And what the certificates really, because I know some people say you don't need a certificate to be a medium and you don't need this, that, and the other. But to me, it doesn't make you a better medium, but to me, it gave me more of a deeper understanding of spiritualism. Wow. And coming from a spiritualist perspective, understanding the history of spiritualism. It goes further now because I'm going towards my DSNU, which is a diploma in the Spiritualist National Union. So we start to learn about the world religions and all different. There's all different types. So it just goes deeper and deeper into it, which I think really brings more of a deeper philosophical spiritualism. So that's my take on the. I hope that's answered that question, by the way.
Yeah, it has. And do you know what? It absolutely was heading to where I was going. And it was just really just to play the other side of the coin, which was, certification in mediumship. It's a big topic. It's a really hot topic. And do you know what? I don't know if Neil is on and anyone from Neil Payne's group, but we were talking about this the other evening about certification in mediumship and frameworks and disciplines and natural mediumship and how it all works. So thank you for starting off that discussion. I'd like to circle back if I can, only because it's just such a passion of, I know lots and lots of people are on here around the philosophy of this particular understanding when we're talking about spiritualism. But I'm really pleased you brought in interfaith, because that is an absolute passion of mine, the kind of that wider stream of knowledge. And can you talk a little bit about kind of how philosophy has evolved for you and what it is you love about it within this understanding?
Okay. Well, I have to say, when I first came into spiritualism, philosophy was the last thing I ever wanted to be part of or express, because I wasn't kind of like a person that was very out there. I was very introverted and very shy. So actually being up in front of people and speaking wasn't my strongest point at that point. But as time goes along, you sort of like, you have this impression of philosophy as being this really heavy subject and really, a bit drab as well in some respects. And what I've learned over time is that philosophy is actually just part of life. Philosophy, we all have a philosophy of our own soul and the way that we live our lives, and our experiences all amount to that philosophy. And we all have an expression of our soul that we can share with people. And as I touched on earlier, I created it was a couple of years ago as a spiritualist, these memes or pictures, however you want to call them, with quotes on, because I thought, as a spiritualist, there's many different things within life on a personal level and personal development that we can touch upon that can really help us as human beings, so, and I was coming as a spiritualist, say, I understand that there is a power greater than ourselves, and that it lives within us and around us, and all we have to do is acknowledge it and appreciate it with gratitude. So there's things like that you can really, as a spiritualist, you can touch people who are not religious.
Yeah.
Because it's just understanding that there is a power greater than ourselves. We can touch upon our communities and our service within the people around us, like with the Brotherhood of Man. So obviously with the Spiritualist National Union, we have the 7 principles. That is the philosophy and our understanding of spiritualism. So when we can identify with our own personal experiences, that can tap into, I think that's when we really get the essence of philosophy. Because obviously where I come from within the SNU is, I just believe that the 7 principles, they were just words. They were just words to me at first. They were just words. They seemed like kind of heavy words as well. So I couldn't really grasp the understanding of them until you start to become more aware of things and more aware of life and your environment, and then principles just sort of like slip in to your life, and it's like, gosh, that's what that principle means. I totally understand that now from that experience. And the more experiences that we build up within that philosophy, the more that we can share to help other people understand their own philosophy of their soul, their own understanding, their own personal development. So that's where it sort of evolved with me with the philosophy. It's turned into a personal development of self-awareness, to be an expression of understanding not only one another, but understanding as a medium the spirit world as well. Because the spirit world are just they're people, they're mums and dads, they're brothers and sisters. We have all these people in the spirit world. I don't really like the term of when people say, "Oh, I've got an energy here," because someone's mum, it's someone's dad, but they have a philosophy as well. And the more that we understand the philosophy of our own soul, I believe the more that we can understand the philosophy of the discarnate soul as well. So it really brings in more of an empathy and a compassion for us to be able to understand one another, and it really benefits not only ourselves but other people around us and the spirit world. So that's and philosophy is just really I love it now. I love philosophy. That's just you could probably tell. I just love it. I think there's philosophies and analogies, and we get inspired by the spirit world, we get inspired by our soul, with the spark of God. And we are truly the expression of God, and and if we really follow that expression of God within a service, within speaking to the public, then that is actually touching and moving other people with that expression. So it's helping other people to understand that expression within themselves as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. What a fulsome answer. Thank you for that. It's really interesting, isn't it? Philosophy kind of gets a little bit of not a bad rap, but I think it's just everyone goes, especially when you're coming into this, you're developing your mediumship, and you think, okay, right, I've got my links. I can kind of navigate my way around messages. And then, the transition from that to doing a church service, and, we're talking primarily around church services and divine services as opposed to demonstrations. There's a section there, and it's almost like we just put an awful lot of pressure on ourselves because we're reading Silver Birch and Red Cloud and all these amazing spirit helpers that have come through and given such wisdom that just transcends all human experience and touches the heart. And you think, how on earth am I going to replicate something like that? But the way you put it is so beautiful. It's our own personal development journey that we're talking about. Yeah. Super. Could you talk a little bit about the article that you read? And I will post it on this page so that people can read it for themselves. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because it's just so much content in that.
Yeah. It was I was asked by the SNUI to do an interview. So I did with Daniel Phoenix. He's the editor of the SNUI newsletter. And he said that a lot of them in the SNUI wanted me to talk about my mediumship. He wanted him to interview my mediumship. But he just got this feeling that he wanted to talk about personal development. And, I feel very strongly about personal development, as you can probably tell. And we just went through a series of questions. And basically, it was, I was expressing within that I believe that within our 7 principles of the SNU spiritualism, that there are keys within each principle, and those keys have a potential to develop us personally on a personal development level. And what we have to do, we just have to tap into them, because and I think if we can sort of get quite a few questions that would reflect from each of the principle to ask oneself, and we can answer them truthfully and honestly, we can really go on a healing journey with the guidance of these principles. Because I know, as going back to the article, because I was just going to go off on one then. But, it was sort of like, I'm very much about sitting in the power as well, which is something that I host at Rawtenstall Spiritual Centre on a Monday and a Wednesday morning. But within that, if we can just acknowledge that power greater than ourselves, and that truly that the spirit within us is part of the Great Spirit. There is no division within that. There is no disconnection. The only thing that disconnects us is our conscious mind. And because the conscious mind brings in the worry, the stresses, the strains, the fear, all these things, because the conscious mind actually can trigger the survival mode. The conscious mind relives those memories of our conditions and tells us what we can and can't do. And it can really limit us in some respects. And what we need to do as human beings, as individuals, from my experience and my opinion, is that we need to work through them conditions. We need to heal from them conditions to be able to be the best possible person, possible soul that we can be, allowing the soul of us to become the best of us. Because going through life with so many barriers and hurdles, and life isn't easy, and it is an emotional journey. And when I'm talking about going through the principles and asking these questions honestly, I'm not saying that it's easy, because it is healing, and healing isn't all tranquil and zen. It's actually messy and painful. And sometimes we can go through these transformations, and we have to. It's like the only way out is through. And some people just stay stuck within the problems, within a victim mentality, and can't seem to break free from that. Now, I believe that spiritualism has a key to break yourself free from them shackles, and to be able to be the person who you're truly meant to be. But I just believe that it's an element that we really need to tap into it and look deeper within them principles and within spiritualism, because I feel that sometimes we just scratch the surface, and there's so much more that could come from that. And within the article, that was basically where I was going with it in a nutshell. That I believe that we have the potential to be the best that we can possibly be as a person, and in turn then us being the best person that we can possibly be, and becoming spiritualized, tapping into the spirituality, because the spirituality isn't something some people label themselves spirituality, whatever, but I believe that spirituality is something that is shown in action. It's something that's in action. It's not something that you can necessarily label yourself, but I believe that people can say, I believe they have tapped into their spirituality with their actions, so I don't think it's something that we can label ourselves, but it's just in true service of how we present ourselves and to other people, and how we behave, and how we respond and react to people as well. So I do believe in, and I did say this in the article as well, that again, it's not plain sailing. It could be that you may need to have some sort of counseling through this as well, some sort of therapy to help you talk through these things that could come up, because you're stirring the soul, you're stirring the past, that are preventing your present and maybe limiting your future. So that's basically what the article is. I've probably missed quite a lot out there and gone off on something else, but that is the theme of what the article was about.
It's a wonderful article, and plaudits must go to Daniel Felix for having the courage to go against the brief for the article, because it is a beautiful piece of work. So well done. Well done, SNUI, for that one. And you know what? It was a real breath of fresh air, because there are so many forums and discussion groups and Q&As, which is all about, more often not, mechanics of mediumship. Mechanics of how to make it better, how to make it stronger, how to sit quietly, how to connect better, how to get a better link, how to present the evidence better. But what I really welcome is what used to happen in spiritualist churches yonks ago, because I remember my mum going, and I sat there with my bag of crisps and a magazine as a little one, and it was a discussion group, and the premise was to discuss things that came up, to discuss concepts in a kind of open, not in a kind of a circle format, but they weren't sitting to develop anything, but they were discussing. And they're few and far between now, those opportunities, aren't they?
Yeah, and it was something I did a few years ago. I think it was about in 2015. I set up a series of workshops, and one was about mediumship, prayer, philosophy, and demonstrating mediumship, and the other was spiritual awareness. And but it was about being aware of who you are, and obviously the energy of yourself. But one thing I did touch upon, and I think we spoke about this in the discussions, it was looking at your life. It was looking at your life in the form of a grid. So you have your hobbies, your religion, your work, your friends, socializing, your family. Put all them in a grid, and put a percentage into them, how much you actually give to them in your life. And it really shocks some people, because it's like, gosh, I put 80% into work and I don't really leave anything else left for anybody else. And that's not to shock people. That is bringing awareness to them. And that, to me, that is bringing awareness, because we have to clear out the clutter of our material life to be a better, to be best of service, I should say, for a spiritual purpose. Because the more that we have this clutter and challenges of this life, then surely that can be a barrier to the spirit world. If we're working in that way, and also a barrier within your life, because then things that clutter the mind, and we think, oh, I'm too busy to do this because I've got so much on, and you don't realize that you're neglecting other things, even yourself. Because you can be so much of a people pleaser that you can start to neglect everything about yourself as well. So there's all these aspects that one grid can really bring awareness to. So there was the sort of things I did. There was another aspect to that as well, where someone gave me this. What was it? It was like an exercise of making a cup of tea. And everyone had to sit there and have this cup of tea, right? So, the purpose of the exercise was for them to feel into the cup of tea, feel into the warmth, the smell, and all that. So that was an awareness exercise. However, I I was just inspired as I was doing it during the class. And I just said, who loves a cup of tea? So they all put their hands up. They love a cup of tea. And I says, well, what is it that you love about the tea? And he starts thinking, like, what do you mean? I said, well, if you were to, would you still love the cup of tea if you didn't have milk and sugar in it? Because really, you're not loving the tea. There's a condition to that tea.
Yeah.
You understand? So it really gets people. So how many people in your life is it that you truly love? Or is it what they do for you? And how many is it what you do for other people? And it really gets people to look at things in a different way. So really, it's about this self-reflection. And I just thought it was a really good analogy, really, to bring in. But it was just purely inspired in that exercise. So they were the types of spiritual awareness I was doing a lot alongside building up to the mediumship.
Wow. Amazing. Do you know what? There's so much to that, and there's some amazing questions coming in, and so many people. Lovely Nicola is here. Hello, Nicola. Hope you're well. She's very much the same vein as you, saying spiritualism was the mechanism that changed her life completely. So I've got a couple of questions, but I suppose I just wanted to, before we move away from this completely and the whole personal development journey you've been on, how does God and prayer feature in your life now, and how did it kind of feature before? And because that's something I'm really fascinated in. Yeah.
Well, it's God is part of my life every day now, and I had to come to an understanding about God, and that was a process within itself. Yeah. I think I've touched upon where I actually came from initially before spiritualism. Was I had a chronic alcohol problem. I am an alcoholic. I can't say I'm not, or I suffered and suffer with alcoholism, but I haven't drunk for 16 years, and it's actually the anniversary tomorrow of 16 years. But when I first went to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, this is where they started to talk about God. Now, I'd always depicted the term God as this judgmental character with a long beard that's sat on a cloud and chucked thunderbolts at people. And that was my, I would sort of been brought up. I wasn't brought up with any religion as such, but it was just my concept of how I thought of God. But within AA, it was believing and understanding in a power greater than yourself. And I could sort of couldn't get to grips with that, but still didn't really understand it. But it wasn't until coming into spiritualism and the fatherhood of God and understanding that God is within each and every one of us. The spirit within us is that spark of God. It's in everything and everyone. It's all that ever has been, all that ever will be, and all that is. And it runs through everything and everyone, and we're all part of it, and that's what connects us. And that's my understanding. I used to have a very big problem with prayer. I mean, Mavis Patilla, who trained me, she managed to grab hold of me back in 2012 when I was and I did a mentorship with her, and she'd go, "You're not a prayer, Adam. You're not a prayer." And she had to write me a prayer out because I just found it so difficult, because I found prayer was such a personal thing. If I was to do prayer, it was personal. So I found it really hard to pray for other people because, especially in a service, but it was something I had to learn to do. And what Mavis taught me, she taught me the sacredness and the importance of prayer. And she also added in with the philosophy as well. She taught me a lot about philosophy, a lot about soul, a lot about the spirit. That has really resonated with me. And on my journey, it's just continued to go deeper and deeper from that. But when we look at prayer, it was always like the perception you'd always be asking for something. Oh, please God, this. And it's sort of like these begging prayers. Whereas really what Mavis taught me was we're praying for thanksgiving. We're praying for all that we have, and what we do when we're praying each day, we're praying for the intention of the day ahead, being thankful for the day, being thankful for the life that we have, however challenging it is, just being thankful. And sometimes that's hard to do, especially when we're going through things within life. But I suppose it was the whole concept of prayer and God that sort of amalgamated together, because it is that we're praying to that divine spirit, that God force. But when we're opening service, we're setting an intention of what we're doing, and we're being thankful for that service that is about to happen. And knowing that the God force is really everywhere within us. We just have to acknowledge it. So when we're praying for people, we're praying for certain places, that have got war, that have got disease, and all sorts of things, disharmony that's going on in the world. We're not actually praying for God to be there, because we know God is there. We just pray that those people acknowledge the presence of God and know that they're supported. And that is the understanding that I have of God, and just more of a universal force, a creative force, a loving force. We are all part of God. Nothing and no one can live without it, and we just wouldn't be present without it. So that is my understanding, and I find it hard now. I actually find it hard for people not to believe in God. It's honestly, and it's really strange, because I was really skeptic years ago, but now I feel very sort of passionate, because I suppose we're sitting in the power, we're blending with that God force, we're acknowledging that God force within that, as we tap into our potential of who we are, and developing who we are. So it's really just become part of my life, without even thinking about it. I just think we are an expression of God. So the expression of God comes out in the service and the people that we deal with too, on a day-to-day basis. So that is my understanding of God. But I did have a problem with God.
Yeah.
I did have it, and I've got to admit that I did have a problem with God. But it was only learning and expressing and blending that I really got to understand my perception of God, because it's personal too.
Yeah.
It's personal. So it's something that you can't share something with somebody and say you must believe in God and God is this and God is that, because they've got to experience it, in my experience.
Yeah. Wonderful. Gosh. And can I just say thank you for your absolute grace? And I'm going to use the word grace, because it feels as if you, by your very presence, are creating the opportunity for other people to be changed by this conversation. I'm very moved by your candor and your honesty, and how by being so free in the way that you describe your own faith helps other people to articulate and reach into what their faith is. Yeah. And I think actually, as people who are spiritual, some of it is just creating the conditions for other people to have that change. And your whole, I don't like using the word holding space, because it's kind of been adopted by the self-help movement, but you are just creating that energy for other people to drop into that and have their own spiritual experience. So thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. And do you know what? Your story is touching so many people, Adam. So thank you. So many people here, I'm not going to mention you by name, who are drawn to your story, can empathize, and completely be where you are at. And this conversation around prayer is not a new one. And what God looks and feels like is different for everybody. But I love the way you describe it. And I completely agree. Our healing prayer at our church is not about asking Spirit to heal people. Mm-hmm. It's written from the perspective of I'm opening myself up to the possibility of being healed.
Yeah.
Which is really important. Thank you. My goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There are so many good questions. There are so many good questions, so many good comments. You'll have to go back afterwards and read all of these ones. Thank you to everyone that's dropping in. Hello to lovely Lindsay from the Cayman Islands and everybody in the Caribbean. I hope you're holding on to your hats with all the bad weather that's over there. Please stay safe. Lovely Stevie's on, Stevie Trolland. Hello,
Hi,
Stevie. Really lovely to have you with us. I have some amazing questions. Travis. Hi, Travis from the US. Really lovely to have you with us, Travis.
Hi,
So
Travis.
pleased to have you with us. Great question. If you're ready for a question, Adam, Travis has asked, he would love to hear your beliefs on mediums' work once they've crossed into the afterlife. And Leslie Flint once said that mediums are still mediums in the spirit world. What is your take? It's a cracking question.
It is a cracking question, isn't it? Well, I do believe that our work doesn't stop when we go to the spirit world. So, and there could be a possibility, because I believe that there's worlds within worlds when we get to the spirit world, and different levels, and within those levels there's different understandings and a deepening of understanding from a soul perspective. Because obviously when we get to the spirit world, we can see our life review, and we get to see what's happened, our rights, our wrongs, and we become the sort of like observer of all that. And I think as much as we travel further into the spirit world, I think that we do have an opportunity, because obviously there's guides and helpers and inspirers that we have in the spirit world, and I'm sure that if there was some sort of a talent or potential that we didn't really truly unfold whilst we were here, I'm sure that we can help another person here to unfold their potential and inspire them. So really we can be a helper for somebody that's here that's going through similar things that they had within their lives, and they can sort of fulfill a potential within themselves along the way. So I think our work doesn't stop, and I suppose it's what we are inspired to do when we get to the spirit world. I mean, who knows until we actually get there? I mean, this is just philosophy for me, really, and what I've sat with and understand to be. So I do believe that we still do a lot of work there, and obviously for our friends and family that are still around too. We're still inspiring, helping, supporting in the ways that we can from the spirit side of life, because more than anything, that love bond doesn't change. As we know, we bring that evidence through from the spirit world, that they can be very much around at certain times when people are going through them stresses. But I think as time goes on, and all those people within your family, within the generations, once those generations are in the spirit world with you, I believe that there's a next part to where we can start to unfold to help humanity as a whole. We start looking at a bigger picture, and I think the consciousness starts to grow within that. So wherever that can go, who knows? But yeah, I hope I've answered your question, Travis, there.
Hope you did. It's really interesting, isn't it? And I don't know if you've experienced this, but sometimes when a loved one comes through to communicate, you can tell that they've been a medium because they get it. And that's such a joy to work with, because they kind of parcel everything up really nicely for you, because they kind of anticipate, and they're working on such an amazingly present vibration. It's brilliant. So I'm sure they're probably still busy in the spirit world, aren't they? Working. Thank you. Hopefully that answered your question, Travis. It's really great to have you with us. Hope you're staying well over there and your Friday is going well, my friend. Lovely to have you with us. So Jamie asked a great question. Jamie Williamson, you can always count on him for an amazing question. He was asking about kind of the future and how can we take spiritualism. I know this is going to be your opinion on how we can take spiritualism and philosophy forward into the future. Wow, what a future.
Gosh, that is a question, isn't it? That is a big question, because, at the moment, I don't know about anybody else, but when I came into spiritualism, I was the youngest person. I mean, I came into it when I was about 19. So, and it was always an older generations that was part of it. And so there's always kind of been limited younger people involved. I've found going back and going through the times. However, there is a big draw to mediumship within young people these days. So we've got the Arthur Findlay College, and we've got all this fantastic training and learning. But within spiritualism as a religion and the philosophy, I believe to take that forward more is, I suppose as I was saying earlier, really, within the philosophy of spiritualism is making it into a self-awareness. If there was something that was available for people to tap into, as a self-awareness for them to heal, this process of healing through the principles, I really believe it's something that's burning within me at the moment to really explore, because it's been simmering for some time now. And I've actually got a friend, Suzette Carlisle, and she's a fully trained counsellor, and we're actually going to look at the aspects of the principles. And I think once we look at that, because you think about it, when the people that seem to learn about spiritualism or go forward with the philosophy, a lot of the time, this isn't just a general sweep, but they tend to be very much interested in the phenomena of spiritualism, the mediumship, and that is the hook really to bring them in. So you only find that people really want to learn about mediumship. Mm-hmm. That's what people will do. So you'll start to get all these people that are learning about mediumship, but then I know there's the philosophy there, which is a fantastic philosophy if it's used within its full potential. But I believe that there should be some sort of self-awareness, development through the principles that is open to all. Yeah. Not just people with the potential of mediumship, not just people that are healers, not just people that are speakers, but something that can really help anybody and everyone. Because, that's what spiritualism is. That's what the philosophy, that's what the principles were brought through for, to help mankind, not just spiritualists. Yes. If we think of it in that way, then there's all these keys that are in there that are hidden. And I think and feel that this is where we have to go down, because I mean, you look at the great speakers. We've got some great speakers, some great motivational speakers in this day and age. Michael Bernard Beckwith, and we have Wayne Dyer, and all these types of people. And you know what? As spiritualists, we can identify with the talk that they're saying. We can identify with it. They're coming at things in such a level that everyone can identify, and they were so motivational and inspiring. And I believe that's what we can have and have the potential to have within our philosophy and within spiritualism, to bring this new injection into it, and to really move forward. That's how I believe, and I think it would really bring a new life in. It will bring younger people in as well, because for people to take on that journey of self-awareness about their own spirit, about their own soul. Learn about that first before embarking onto mediumship. Know thyself before going on to something that you think that you want to be, because we have so many people too that are adamant that they want to be mediums. They've got it in the minds. The conscious mind and their ego is like, I want to be a medium, and they'll do what it takes to do that. But they could be an absolutely fabulous speaker, and they're really trying to fit a square peg into a hole. Yeah. But if they took that time within themselves and allow the soul to rise, then they'll be truly drawn like the compass and the navigation of their own life to go wherever they're meant to go, instead of allowing the conscious mind to distract, and then for the ego to be disappointed and to be in this constant state of disappointment because they're not following the true potential. So I really want to focus on the self and the soul and the spirit aspect of spiritualism, because I just feel personally that can be missing in some aspects, not for all, but just for some. But if there was something that was presented to people within that, like a guidance within that, then I think it holds a very much a big potential for the future of spiritualism.
Wow. Do you know what a vision that is? And it's interesting, isn't it? We talk about the fact that people get drawn to spiritualism for a variety of reasons. But in the main, people that walk in through the door for the first time are there because they've lost somebody. There's someone's returned back to the spirit and they have questions and they want to know what's happening.
Yeah.
But actually, you're right. There's a potential in all faith paths that people are drawn because they know there's something else, or they have a potential, or they just feel that their soul is rising towards something. And it's for us and everyone that's watching. Actually, if you're watching at home, you've got to take the rallying cry that this is coming. And Adam, whenever you put that course on, that workshop on, let me know. It sounds what is needed at this time on this planet right now.
I mean, amazing. I think if it was to go on as well, when people enter into a spiritualist church, a lot of people are broken. Yeah. You know, they're broken by grief, they're broken or they're lost, you know, they're looking for answers in some way. And they can sort of like hold on to mediumship and think that's the way. So they start to develop and you know, that can cause problems, because it can cause problems to other people who they are working with if they've not fully looked after themselves, healed themselves. So I think, and you know, I can go off. I always use everything from experience. So it's not like I'm just talking about this, because when I came into mediumship, I was one of these that did. I was big with self-development because I had to be, because it would have killed me if I wasn't. So I had to be aware totally of myself. I know that spiritualism did save my life in a lot of ways through its philosophy. And as I started on developing, I was predominantly clairvoyant. I'd see things so clearly, so I could see things like a video that would go in and just describe it. And I'd say that to describe it to people. And I remember at the Arthur Findlay College, when the very first time I went there, and describing, and this lady who is now a friend, she was in tears because I brought a boyfriend through who had passed away. And I'm like, really? Honestly? Because, you know, I could see all this, but I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't feel anything. And you know, it was a massive learning curve for me, because obviously you can only go off your own experience. And the further on that I developed, and it wasn't developing my mediumship, it was developing myself personally, because I had to develop and break down the barriers of my emotional self, all of my conditions, all of my rejections, fear of abandonments, victim mentality, all them things that had really suppressed me as an adult from growing up. That shyness, you know, all these things, low self-esteem, self-loathing, all these things that had accumulated over life, and grief, you know, because I was someone I didn't cry. I never cried. So it was hard to express my feelings. It was hard to talk about my feelings. But the moment that I started to talk about things, and the moment I started to, I suppose, get more into a depth of healing within myself and becoming more and more aware, the tears started to come. Now it's like, gosh, I get emotional at songs. I get emotional at just the littlest things now. You know, it's quite funny, really. But I just used to be so poker faced, I suppose, and so unemotional, but so sensitive inside. And that's where the problems came. That's where the problems came for me with the alcohol, because that was a release for me. That was a release out of my, that was my expression of what was screaming to come out, but wasn't in the right way. And that's why the dependency and the addiction came in, because it was something that started to feel normal, but then it started to work against me and started the absolute opposite, and started to ruin my life and try to kill me. So it was something within that. So I had to look at myself really honestly, because if I lie about anything to myself, then really I'm one step away from an addictive, compulsive behavior. So you've really got to be truthful to yourself within that. And I think I've forgotten what I'm saying now, Ashley. But I've just gone off on a tangent. But yeah, I think we just need to really look at ourselves, and that was it. Sorry, I've come back now. I've had a clicking. I've as time went on, my mediumship actually got better because I became more emotional and I became more empathic, more compassionate, and I was able to be more freer. So the spirit world were actually able to blend with me more, trust me more. I was able to be more understanding to the spirit world. So you know, I think sometimes we can have our own judgments within things within life, and knowingly or unknowingly, you know, it's nothing. And again, it can be our conditions of how we've been brought up and things like that. But I believe that we should be a platform for any spirit communicator that comes through. And the more that we work upon ourselves, and the more that we can have that empathy and compassion for people, the more that it will expand the diverseness of the spirit world that can come, and the diversity of all those people that you can help as well. So there's no limits for you to be able to help people, because if you've got any issues within your personal life, that, you know, there could be a trigger of someone in the spirit world that may have a similar sort of life that you had, or something like that. So that could be a trigger for and a blockage for you to be able to help that person. So that's just another analogy of mine, and again through experience, because as I've worked on myself more and more, the more diverse of the people, the more healing that the communications become as well, because it's more of the healing between the two worlds, that those people can really trust you to say what they wanted to say, and that they're sorry, or I love you, or I thank you for the things that they did while they were here. You know, and we can really go onto another level. So the deeper that we can work on ourselves, I think the deeper we can go with the spirit communication as well, and the healing. So that's my experience and understanding.
Well, Adam, thank you. And do you know what? If there's anyone who is on this evening who isn't already developing their mediumship, or isn't already sitting in circle, that is going to be a massive motivation for them to say, my goodness, I want a piece of that. Because it is such a joy. It's hard. You're right. It's hard when you start peeling off the layers of the onion. And it's really lovely that Letty's on here, and any of my interfaith friends are going through this really intense interfaith minister training, where actually the first part of it, you're just working on yourself before you do anywhere near anyone else. It's hard, but then it becomes a real joy, because you're just so free with your emotion, like you say. And you know what? I would rather see a medium on the platform who is very visibly emotional if they're bringing through one of my loved ones, because that's how I feel about them. Wonderful. And it's amazing. Hello, Billy. Billy Cook's on. He's talking about his workshop. Hi, Billy. Well, it's true, because actually, you know, that's a point that Billy makes beautifully in his workshop, the last one that he did, which is around, you know, people are going to have been through some stuff. People that pass the spirit world have had hard lives, and you've got to be able to be there in the trenches with them to be able to articulate on their behalf what it is they want to say. Lovely. Super. Thank you so much. My goodness. Thank you to everybody who's sharing this broadcast as well. I feel it's going out there, and if there's anyone you think would benefit from this, I know that everyone would benefit from this. But if there's anyone who's really struggling at the moment, who you know is struggling with any aspect of their life, goodness, isn't there so much upliftment to be found in the words that you said this evening and the questions that you've asked at home? Thank you. Wow. So many amazing comments. everyone's thanking you really honestly from the bottom of their hearts. And I'm sure you get loads of messages afterwards to say thank you for sharing your story. It's very rare that we get people sharing their story so openly. So thank you so much. It's been utterly great to talk to you. Thank you. And thank you to, Phil's made some great points here. Phil Shaw. Yeah, okay. He's wanting to be immediate at the risk of bypassing spiritual philosophy is running before you can walk. Yeah,
I agree.
Completely agree. Thank you everybody that's been with us. Is there any kind of closing thing? What do you want to leave people with? And also, how can people find out where to find you? Where to find you, Adam?
Okay, well, there's numerous places where you can find me at the moment, but predominantly I'm the president of Rawtenstall Spiritualist Centre, so I've been doing a lot of my work through the centre. So obviously I've been doing the Sitting in the Power Hour online every Monday evening. And Suzette does a 20-minute session on a Wednesday morning. There are things that I've been posting upon Rawtenstall, like philosophical quotes and things like that. I do tend to post them on my Adam Berry Medium page as well. So I have got a personal, professional mediumship page too. But I've also got a website, which is adamberrymedium.com. So they're all the places that you can find me. And I suppose on a lasting note, I think I just want to thank everybody for listening and being part of this evening and the questions and answers, and obviously the lovely Ashley for inviting me. Because it's lovely, because it's even with Ashley, she mentioned that I gave a communication to her when I saw her 3 years ago, and and I think it's wonderful to sort of get them memories from people, because as mediums and as spiritual workers, people of service, sometimes we can touch people and we don't have a clue how. And until we hear the stories, and I think it's lovely to have had that feedback, because I would never have known that, Ashley, until you said it, and it just triggers me to think about, well, that's the case for everybody, because you all have this light within you, you're all a soul experiencing this life, and you've got to make the best out of your life while we've got it here. I used to think eternal progress open to every human soul was something that started when we went to the spirit world. And I honestly used to believe that. I used to think, if I don't fulfill my purpose now, I'll just do it when I get to the spirit world. But really, how wrong was I? Because it's the present now, and you are the present for everybody. And you are that light for some people that are going through dark times. And you may be that trigger to help them on their personal development or spiritual path. And we can help people knowingly or unknowingly, and you have the capability of one word or one sentence that could actually change somebody's life for the better. It could be between life and death with somebody, and you give the word of life to them. And I think it's a special quality that we have within our communities, and how we share our thoughts, and for us just to be honest with each other in kindness and compassion, for us to really live the life that we're meant to lead. And I think I'll just leave you with those words. So thank you. Thank you, Ashley, for having me.
You're so welcome anytime at all. My goodness me, there is so much there to unpick. I'm just pleased it's all recorded, because being with you in the moment is such a joy, but I'm going to enjoy listening back to this and kind of unpicking so much of it. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who's asked a question or put a comment on. There was so much going on that unfortunately we couldn't get to all of your questions and comments, but I do go back and have a look at everybody's comments and questions in the chat afterwards. So if there's anything which is really burning, or actually, if anything's come up for you this evening that you feel you want to reach out, then please do that. Please do reach out. There are so many people out there. There's so much focus on support, and you're definitely in the right community. Definitely within the spiritual community, you're in the right place. So my goodness, if we want to see Adam again working, this is crazy. This weekend, on Sunday evening at 6:15, we have the great joy of Adam taking our divine service over on our church Facebook page, the Light Spiritualist Church, Weymouth. Please do go and check that out. I'll be posting a link underneath. That's at 6:15 until 7, and that is prayer, healing, worship, more glorious philosophy. So please do join us for that. Thank you, everyone who's joined us. Have a safe weekend, whatever you're doing. Let just the joy of this evening wash over you. It's been lovely to have you with us. Thank you so much, Adam. And I'm going to say cheerio. Good night. Cheerio.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.